There is this very popular saying in investing: value is what you get, price is what you pay. Now, Ondo Finance seems to be rather cheap right now, and the value we might be getting with the token could be pretty high because the continued adoption of the platform seems to not stop. Now let's have a look at the data most people are not considering. Let's see how much potential upside there really is. Ondo Finance is fascinating because despite the rather lackluster price performance in the last month, it's still one of the most viewed cryptocurrencies in all of crypto. This is CoinGecko, and Ondo Finance is at number 3 in terms of the most viewed cryptocurrencies. The videos on this channel that discuss Ondo Finance also tend to get more views than average. And this is all happening while the price went down by 42% in the last year, while at the same time Bitcoin appreciated by 48%. So what's going on here? Ondo Finance is one of the top plays in all of crypto. It's the leading real-world asset token. But the issue potentially is tokenomics. The supply of Ondo grew massively at the beginning of the year. There was a major unlock. We used to have 1.5 billion Ondo tokens, and that then grew to 3.4 billion, more than a doubling of the supply. Now the next unlock will be again at the beginning of the year, 2026. This time the relative growth won't be that bad, right? It will only be 50% compared to the current base. But again, January of 2025 was problematic. And that then explains why Ondo Finance relative to Bitcoin underperformed by 60% since then. And so there's a case to be made to be potentially somewhat cautious at the end of the year again. But until then, we might see a rally, and here's why. Within the real-world asset space, within RWA, according to CoinGecko, Ondo is only at number 4. But have a look at place number 1, 2, 3. Chainlink does much more than real-world assets, right? They are an oracle and a data feed for blockchains. Stellar is a separate blockchain by itself. It does much more than RWA as well. And the BlackRock USD stablecoin is just a stablecoin. So really, Ondo Finance is number 1 in real-world assets. And the platform is growing massively. Now, where does this growth come from? It comes from the growth of stablecoins, because currently most of real-world assets is simply bridged stablecoins, bridged fiat currency into the crypto ecosystem. As crypto is expanding, as more money is flowing from the traditional finance ecosystem to crypto, Ondo Finance can benefit as well. And so currently that's the main thing. Ondo Finance is the bridge of various institutional investors to the crypto ecosystem via stablecoins. But for another rally to happen, we need to have a new narrative. And Ondo Finance is building on that narrative. The narrative is US securities on the blockchain. Now, in the past, there were regulatory hurdles to issue stocks on the blockchain, right? The SEC did not like this. They sued Binance, for example, that first tried this out, and then Binance had to cancel the program. But the regulatory environment in the US has massively changed since then. Donald Trump is supporting pretty much everything crypto. He also replaced the head of the SEC. And the new project by Ondo Finance called Global Markets might bring the next wave of adoption, not just for Ondo, but for crypto as a whole, because not everybody has a US brokerage account. If you're somewhere in Africa and you want to buy Tesla stock, good luck. It's not that easy. But with Ondo Finance, just buying a token on the chain, that should be much easier. But let's take a step back and let's have a look at the adoption metrics of Ondo Finance on the chain. Now there's the Ethereum chain. This is where Ondo gets traded. And there are currently 141,328 wallets that hold the token. Now, not all of those wallets have a lot of Ondo, right? Some of them might just hold a few cents worth of the token. For example, arbitrage bots. So let's dive into this in a bit more detail. What we've got over here is the number of retail investors versus whales over time. The way we make this distinction is by looking at how many tokens does a wallet hold. Now, for the chart on the left, that's at least 1,000 Ondo tokens. So at the current price, that's $828. In the middle, that's 10,000 tokens, so $8,000. And on the right, it's 100,000 tokens, or $80,000. So that's what I'd consider a whale. Now, there's long-term accumulation across the board. The number of wallets is growing everywhere, and that's good. That's exactly what we want to see. But even though the investor base is constantly increasing, it doesn't mean that Ondo has to always outperform Bitcoin. Again, tokenomics matter. and the beginning of next year will have impact on the price again. Not as much as the prior unlock, because again, this unlock was a 2x unlock, more than that. The next unlock will only be 50%. It won't depress the price as much. But clearly we can see how there's growing interest over time. Here's the number of buyers and sellers, and over the months this tends to go up. Now, besides tokenomics, besides the expanding supply, and besides the long-term accumulation by the spot market, there's also the perpetual futures. And perpetual futures have a strong impact on the price in the short term because they are levered bets on the price. In the last 24 hours, we only saw 9 million worth of trading volume on Coinbase. That's on the spot market. But in the perpetual futures market, we saw 135 million worth of trading volume. And that was on MEXC. So those are levered bets on the price. That's what really is driving the price in the short term. When a lot of people are bearish, when a lot of people want to bet on falling prices, the shorts have to pay the longs, and the open interest funding rate turns negative. And that's then when we tend to see a short squeeze. That's then when we tend to see rising prices. Usually we tend to see positive funding rates. So the longs have to pay the shorts in order to get more exposure. That's the usual equilibrium, and we are currently at that equilibrium. It's also usual to rather see the longs getting liquidated than the shorts, again because most people bet on rising prices. What's interesting is always how much impact the perpetual futures have on the spot market. So as open interest, or as the amount of bets on the price on Ondo is going up, we tend to also see the spot market going up. As there is less and less bets on the price, spot also tends to follow. And the perpetual futures open interest is currently rather falling. This is not good short term for Ondo. Long term, of course, there's adoption of the platform. Short term, there is quite a bit of leverage in the price, but there might be an opportunity to buy at some point. And that opportunity is in this chart. This is now Ondo Finance relative to Ethereum, because Ondo gets traded on Ethereum, the liquidity pools are in Ethereum. So in the end, the intrinsic price movements of Ondo, they are in this relative valuation chart. And so, of course, again, since beginning of the year, the price performance hasn't been that great, but we tend to be in a trading range. And if we now delever a little bit, if the open interest on the perps is going down and Ondo underperforms Ethereum by another 10%, we might have a very nice entry opportunity, because then the token could outperform Ethereum by more than 100% again. This is, I think, the most likely scenario. We're very likely going to first see a bit of a continuation of this negative momentum, and then comes the next rally. And that rally might take a while, but I do think it makes sense to then exit before end of the year, because again, there is this looming token unlock. It's a nice token to hold over the long term, again, because the adoption is great through the stablecoins. There is a potential catalyst with the launch of securities which could get approved by the SEC through Donald Trump. All wallet cohorts long-term accumulate, so that's more retail, but that's also the whale investor. And when then on top of that we've got less leverage in the price and open interest is low, and the relative valuation to Ethereum is at the bottom, that's, I think, the ideal time to buy. Now, some people might make the argument that all of this analysis doesn't help at all because markets are efficient. But I tend to disagree, because it's people that make markets efficient. There are clearly winners and losers in the game, and the winners tend to continue to win. So it's not just a game of luck, it's a game of luck and skill. And the nice thing about crypto is that we've got much more data in this market compared to other markets, because every transaction is publicly recorded on the blockchain. But very few people actually use that data properly. And that's in the end where winners and losers are born. People that don't look into the details enough, they tend to lose over time. That's the vast majority. Now, the charts that you've seen in this video come from a tool that I've developed myself on top of the Dune Analytics platform. It's part of the premium membership of this channel. There are two dashboards. There's a dashboard for Ethereum related blockchains. So those are the ones we can analyze. We can plug in any token into this tool, and then we can see how many large holders are there, how many small holders are there, how many new users enter a token, and how many buyers and sellers do we have over time. It's also always useful to look at the token ownership, right? Is a token mainly held just by the whales, by the people that have more than $100,000 worth of the token? If that's true, it's potentially, especially if that happened forever, a quite dangerous token. And so this is how I think about this fundamentally. The target with trading and with investing is to be better informed than the average, to be the person that makes the market efficient. If we are better skilled than the average person, then we should over time also make positive expected value bets. That means that not every single trade will be positive, but on average we should make money. Again, because we can estimate the probabilities better. We can see the dangers and the potential upsides better. Now, I have made more than 100 tutorial videos on various topics within crypto. How to do on-chain analytics, how to build a Dune dashboard like we've just seen, but of course you also get access to the dashboard itself. Also about risk management, about how to properly use leverage, if that's your thing. All kinds of videos. Feel free to check them out. The newest video is this one, how to use perpetual futures and how to use the hyperliquid platform to beat others. The videos are posted on the website, but they're also posted directly in Telegram. And here's the feedback to that tutorial. Feel free to stop the video and read through this yourself. But of course, we also need to start somewhere. And so I'm personally, of course, sharing my own trades as well as I open them. Of course, I can't share the newest trades here on YouTube, but have a look at this. This is on March 3rd. I'm adding another short, Cardano, relative to the US dollar. And the explainer was in a premium update video. So I publish premium update videos every 3 to 4 days. I then added more exposure on the 11th of March and I then closed it on the 7th of April. So of course, not every trade works out that well, but Cardano went down relative to Bitcoin by 36% during that time. And so with this membership, I want to do both. Of course, I want to make it profitable very quickly. That's why I share my trades, but I also want that the vast majority, at least of the members, takes the time to learn as much as possible. That in the end, you might not even need the membership anymore. You can make your own profitable trades. Now have a look at this. This is where our members share their winning trades. If you use the right leverage, if you know how to do proper risk management as well, you can make hundreds of % in a single trade. It's all about being prepared and knowing the data better than most other market participants. So feel free to check it out. It's currently $125 US per month. The price has been reduced because currently the attention on crypto is still relatively low. Once Bitcoin hits new all-time highs again, then I might go back to the 165. But the 125 is locked in for everybody that signs up now. So when the price increases, when you're still subscribed, your price will not increase. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in Premium. There's also a link to Premium directly here on the right. Just click on that. It will lead you directly to the website. So see you next time. Cheers.